everyone. We are at the home of my Aunt Dorothy, and she's here today to tell us about some adventures that she's had. So, Aunt Dorothy, what are your best memories of a great adventure that you've had?
Okay, the best adventure, I've had quite a few in my life because I'm old enough to have had a whole bunch, but my favorite one of all was when I went to Europe.
Oh, really? Tell us about that.
It was a long time ago, but I remember it very well. It was in 1976.
Wow.
I was a member of the First Methodist Church Choir in Shreveport, Louisiana. We made an album that year.
Oh.
And the album was very, very good.
Oh, wow.
And right after that, our choir director decided to take us on a tour, a 10-day tour of Europe.
Oh, wow.
So he planned it all, and we performed at some of the churches over in Europe and stayed in the homes of some of the people.
Oh, wow.
So here's how the trip started. We took a chartered bus from Shreveport to New York City. And then caught a jumbo jet in New York.
Oh,
that was
wow.
the biggest jet I'd ever seen.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember how many hours we were on that thing, but our first stop was in Ireland.
Oh, wow.
And I know why they call Ireland the Emerald Isle.
Green, huh?
That was the most beautiful green I have ever seen.
Oh, wow.
We didn't get to stay there very long, but I do remember that we had lunch at a pub, and that was very nice.
Uh-huh.
And across from the pub was a horse race place.
Oh.
And it was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
It didn't look anything like the one at Louisiana Downs. It was just pretty green grass out front, flowers all across the front. And of course, I don't know where they parked the cars. I didn't see that part, but I didn't see pavement with a whole bunch of blank spot. It was just so pretty.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, after we left there, we went to London, and we spent more time in London, I guess, than we did anywhere else on the trip, because we had more churches to perform at there. But the girl that I stayed with each night, she was the lead singer of our group. Her name was Margaret Jones. She had performed at Radio City at one time, which is very, very prestigious honor.
Right.
But anyway, she and I got to spend the night at the home of a minister and his wife one night, and that was wonderful. We got to have dinner with them. Sometimes we had dinner at the churches, and sometimes we ate with the people that we stayed with. But I remember that night, it was so cold. They had the window up, even though it was really cold. It was April, but in London, it's still chilly there.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, we had so many quilts piled up on us, you could hardly move over, turn around. But it was wonderful. I enjoyed it. And anyway, we sang at that pastor's church the next day. We got to stay in the city of London itself one day and one night. We stayed in a hotel there in London. And while you're there, you just get to see people from all over the world. I was so fascinated with it.
Wow.
And one of the things that we did in the hotel that was so neat, that afternoon, everybody stops for afternoon tea. They call it high tea. Everybody gathered in the lobby and had tea and little cakes, and that was so much fun.
It must have been.
And then that night we went out to dinner to a nice restaurant. And then the next day we got to shop all day.
Ooh.
That was quite fabulous. I got to see so many interesting shops and ate some of their wonderful ice cream at the little ice cream parlor. And I love looking at china and dishes and all that glassware. A lot of people on our trip took things home, that bought things that they really didn't have room in their suitcase for. We had been warned ahead of time to take a very small suitcase, one that we could carry, because sometimes we had to get on a train to travel, and you had to carry your suitcase with you.
Mhm.
So I did that, and what I did was I took clothes that were mix and match,
Mhm.
and that worked out real well. And then while we were in the hotel, we'd wash our underwear. That would be the first time we'd have a chance to wash and hang things to dry. So we took care of that night. Oh, but anyway, we traveled. We had a tour bus driver, and he was a hoot. He was so funny. But he took us all around London. We got into some heavy traffic in London, but once he got us outside of London, we got to see a lot more. And I remember the pastry shops and the butcher shop. They had all these different places where you could buy vegetables. In other words, it wasn't just one great big old grocery store like we have now. Of course, they may have those now, I don't know. But that's the way it was back then, and I loved it. I remember eating some pastry at a pastry shop that had these great big strawberries on it.
Oh.
They told me those strawberries came from Spain. That's where they grow them.
Oh, wow.
So good.
Mm.
But it was wonderful. I didn't gain a pound on that trip, and I ate like all that stuff. It was so wonderful. And I was amazed that I didn't gain any weight, but I didn't. But let's see. On the tour, the bus driver let us stop at Stonehenge. You know that those rock formations.
Mhm.
We got out and got to see all of that. That was quite wonderful.
Neat.
And after we left London, we went to Wales and stayed one night. And I stayed at a house where they had this black lab. And that dog got up in my lap and sat there. He just was so loving. That was a real nice couple. We had a good time talking there. I remember taking a ferry boat ride. I don't know exactly where that was. We took a train ride, and I think that train trip was when we went to Paris.
Oh.
The train is probably what took us to Paris.
Yeah.
But while we were in Wales, we got to see these cliffs. The sea and the cliffs were just there. There was no beach. The cliffs went right down into the sea. And I don't know if they call those the cliffs of Dover. My memory is not real good like it used to be. But anyway, I remember those cliffs. And like I say, we weren't in Wales very long, so there wasn't a whole lot to talk about there. When we got into Paris, of course, I got to see the Eiffel Tower. We didn't get out and walk much, but we did have a very nice dinner at a French restaurant.
Ooh.
That was fun. We didn't spend a whole lot of time in Paris, but we went to Switzerland, to Zurich, and we spent a couple of days there. We stayed at a nice hotel there. And, of course, they speak German there.
Mhm.
But a lot of them spoke English, and we could talk too. But we saw castles, and of course we saw those beautiful those Swiss Alp mountains, and the Swiss chalets, those homes that they live on the side of the mountains. Those are so neat. I never got to see inside a home, but I wanted to. But we did get to see some castles, and we let's see, we went to a factory where they made watches, and I bought a watch for Roxanne. It was a white and gold trimmed bracelet watch, and she loved it. And I also bought myself a Venetian glass necklace, and I still have it. It is so beautiful.
Wow.
And I bought some handmade handkerchiefs.
Oh.
And Switzerland, like I said, was very, very lovely. It was just gorgeous. And on the trip to Switzerland, I remember looking out the window of the tour bus and seeing these salmon just jumping out of those mountain streams.
Wow.
Oh, that was a sight to see.
I bet.
That was something.
I bet.
And then we flew out of Zurich and came back home to Kennedy Airport. And on the trip home, I saw John Kennedy. She was sitting close enough that I could see her.
Oh, wow.
She was a pretty lady.
I bet.
She was.
I bet.
Had pretty blonde hair.
Wow.
So,
So what sticks out in your mind? Why does this memory of this adventure stick out in your mind the most?
because being a country girl and never having gone anywhere like that, I just thought it was such a privilege to get to do something like that. And I didn't know if I'd ever get to do anything like that again. So that's why that one sticks out in my mind.
It's like
Of
your
course,
first great adventure, huh?
first great adventure. And of course, after that, Richard and I have been to some more wonderful places. But that was my first
Great adventure.
great adventure.
Do you think that it's important for people to travel?
Yes, you need to get to know how other people in other parts of the world live and how they think. They're pretty much like us everywhere.
Right.
The people that we stayed with in England, they were just so warm and kind and friendly, and they would just do anything for you. They were just like the people that I grew up with, really. They just, it was so nice. And of course, you need to know about the differences. And like I said, in other countries, there's so many differences. Even though we speak English, in England, their meanings can be different from what we call things here.
Right.
When we say our yard, they say it's their garden.
Right.
They don't call it a yard.
Right.
And they have a different word for drugstore.
Pharmacy, right?
No, it's even different from that. But anyway, those are the two main things that stick out.
Oh.
Another thing that I remember while I was in England, my maiden name is Wenham, and I could see the Wenham name on department stores and different things. Wenham is a popular name over there in that country.
Yeah.
That's where my ancestors came from.
Right. Do you ever think about ever actually doing a family tree to like retrace your roots, or maybe find some long lost relatives in England?
I haven't, but I think my son Robert might. He's interested in that. And as time goes by and his children grow up, he may do that, because he's already asked me a lot of questions about my ancestors.
Do you think it's important to know where your people came from, your ancestry? Is it important to know that?
It's not. Well, I'm not sure how important it is, but I remember that my grandmother told me that the Scarboroughs came from Ireland, and the Wenhams came from England, and my mother's family came from Germany. The Reeses came from Germany, so I pretty much know where my ancestors came from.
Yeah, you don't think there's stories?
There's probably stories that maybe I don't want to know. I mean, it could be something wonderful, or it could be something bad. So that's why I've never really wanted to dig into it to see what kind of people they were.
One of our ancestors might have been a pirate, huh?
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. For me, traveling is like worshiping. You get to enjoy this beautiful planet that God made for us, and that kind of reminds me that we need to take care of it and
That's right.
and each other.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing your adventures with us, and we all wish you were here. Until next time, have a good day. Bye.